a lot of podcasters seem to come in and they don't have the right plan in place. What did you mean by that? Or is it that they don't even have a plan? What's kind of that balance? Where are they and how can you serve that person?
I think it's a little bit of both. And I speak from my own experience. When I first got into podcasting back in 2015, me and my friend, we basically, I mean, to make a long story short, we started a beer podcast out of spite because I had this guy who also had a beer podcast trolling me. And when I found out that's what he did, I said, all right, I'm going to do it better. And me and my best friend had been kicking around the idea of doing a podcast, but our idea of planning was like, okay, well, we like beer and we know how to talk about that. Let's just get some microphones and talk about it. So we recorded our first episode from a loud bar that we would frequent often because they had good beer.
Was it called Burgers?
It wasn't called Burgers. No, this was actually a different bar in Pittsburgh, but we did no editing. We didn't know really what we were doing at all when we actually sat down to record. I mean, we had a conversation, but there was nothing behind it that was legitimate. Like you could tell, like if you listen to it, like these guys have a purpose. They know where they're going. So
there was nothing to say that.
No, I mean, it was basically that these guys are just talking about beer and what, you know, like when I look at them, like looking back on it, we never sat down and said, okay, how much time do we have to dedicate to this? What do we really want to zero in on? Are there certain aspects of this that we can talk about in a more educated way? No, we were basically just looking at what was happening in the world. And we tried to make it different by saying, well, we'll also talk about sports. And I'm like, you know, looking back on it, it's cringeworthy because now the advice I give to anybody is to niche down, get as tightly focused on a subject as you can. Here I am starting a beer podcast where we also talk about sports. So I can speak from my own experience and screwing up and realizing that it doesn't work because we had no plan. And then eventually what ended up happening was a weekly production became a bi-weekly production. And then all of a sudden my friend couldn't contribute as much. So now I'm doing the show by myself. And then those productions aren't getting much better. And that was where I just said, you know what? I got to take a step back. And I canceled the show. I pulled all the episodes down. So no, you can't go listen to this pile of garbage that I put out back in 2015.